Okay, we are going to start our social studies lesson. I want you to open up your social studies book to page 150. Okay, our vocabulary words are goods and service. You watched a video the other day about goods and service. So goods are things that you can buy, things that you can touch. You may buy a car, buy a pen, buy a book. A service is something you pay somebody to do, such as a teacher to teach you, but you're gaining knowledge, not necessarily something you can put in your shopping bag. Okay, a dry cleaning is a service. Yes, they're giving you your clothes back, but they're your clothes that you brought to them. You're not buying the clothes from them. You're buying the service that they've cleaned it. A gardener, someone that comes and works on your pool, a contractor that fixes your roof. Okay, that's a service. A good is something that you're buying. I try to think of it as something you can put in a bag, and you walk into a store, you give them money, and you leave with something tangible, something you can touch. An entrepreneur is someone who owns a business, and profit is the money people make after they pay all of their expenses, they pay their employees, they pay for their goods that they're going to sell, and those kinds of things. The profit is the money that you have at the end of the day. Okay, let's take a look at our timeline. Okay, it starts here, I would say probably about 1764. So here's 1750, and it's a little bit past that, and goes to today, which is after the year 2000. Okay, build on what you know. Has a new person ever joined your class or community? Often, newcomers bring new ideas to a place. Some of the newcomers in St. Louis, Missouri, had new ideas for making money. St. Louis's first years. During the 1800s, the United States grew. Thousands of people began to move west. One place they settled was in St. Louis. As St. Louis began in 1764 as a trading post on the banks of the Mississippi River. Not far away, another large river, the Missouri, joins the Mississippi. Remember, we read this all together. St. Louis's location, where two large rivers meet, helped it grow. Okay, so here is our map. Okay, so Missouri, it shows us, is in the center of the country here. That's the state, Missouri. St. Louis is a city in it, right along the border of Illinois. And if you see, they have the Mississippi River and they have the Missouri River, and they both come together right there, which is important because during those times they were selling things, and they would put them on the ships, and the ships would come down the river, and they could come into the port, and people would unload those the goods that were on the ship. They would unload them, and then if you lived right here, you could get the barges, the big ships that were coming down, and you could buy those products and also sell them products, and they would keep going on to other cities that were located along that river. So our caption here, cities and rivers. Settlers traveled to St. Louis and beyond along rivers. Which two rivers meet north of St. Louis? Okay, so here's St. Louis, and just a little bit north of that, you can see you have the Mississippi River that comes down like this, and then you have the Missouri River that comes over and meets like that. Okay, so you have both of those rivers. All right, newcomers arrive. In the 1800s, people used rivers to travel long distances. Boats moved people and goods up and down rivers and all the way to the sea. Goods are things people buy or sell. As more people used rivers for travel and trade, St. Louis became a busy place. It was a starting point for settlers moving farther west. Pioneers bought goods there. They wanted plows, wagons, and other supplies. Obviously, they needed the plows and the wagons and the other supplies pretty much for their farming. But if you had a plot of land and you built your house there and you grew things, if you could get your hands on a plow and a wagon and some other farming supplies, it was going to make your ability to grow more crops and things like that, you could do it faster, you can do it better and more efficient, and which is going to make you more money. You can sell them, okay, sell the crops. But the boats coming down these rivers could have that machinery and those things on them, okay? Newcomers came from countries such as Germany and Ireland. They found work, farmed, and set up new businesses. Some of them provided services. A service is work that one person does for another. For example, boat captains provide a service by carrying people along the Mississippi River. All right. Business boosts St. Louis. Okay, it's blue, so we're reading it together. As more people came to St. Louis, its economy grew. Entrepreneurs started newspapers, mills, and other businesses. An entrepreneur is a person who takes a risk or a chance to start a new business. So anyone who has started their own business is considered an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs who ran their businesses well made a profit. A profit is the money a business earns after paying all its cost. People earn profits by providing services or selling private property such as land. Private property is something that belongs to a person and not to the government. Because St. Louis was growing so quickly, people could earn more profits there than they could in other places. The opportunity to own property and to start new businesses was one reason why so many newcomers moved to St. Louis. So here's an example. Our caption is Profit and Costs. A wagon builder in 1847 sold wagons for about $100 each. It cost about $90 to build one, so his profit was $10. So he sold it for $100, but it cost him $90 in materials to make it. So for each wagon he sold, he made $10. Okay? Obviously, this was a long time ago. $10 back then was worth a lot more than it is now, because there's no way you could buy a wagon for $100, okay, right now. But certainly back then, $100 was worth a lot more than it is today. Okay, St. Louis today. St. Louis has changed over the years. The first settlers lived in cabins. Many families now live in tall buildings. Today, people make trucks with motors instead of wagons. Ships, however, still haul goods. More than 300,000 people live in St. Louis today. It is now the second largest city in Missouri. So, what made the economy of St. Louis grow? That would be the fact that they lived near the two rivers and that many people would buy and sell things along those boats, okay, along the river. So here's a nice picture. Okay, this is the St. Louis Arch. Let's see if I can move this down and get more light on it. Okay, this is really in St. Louis, okay, the arch. And then you can see all the businesses and the tall buildings behind. So the St. Louis Arch celebrates the city's past as a gateway to the West, meaning that they were a bridge, if you're looking at where people lived here, okay, that you know that most people came over to the United States on the East Coast, and they would travel to here, and they could buy things here that could take them all the way to the West. Or some of them came here and they decided, let's just stay here. This is a great place. But they, at first, their idea was just to stop and maybe get a wagon, and then if they bought that wagon, then they could hop in the wagon. It would make their journey out west a lot easier. Okay, good job.